Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to everybody and everyone here. Welcome to this page if this is your first time. Welcome back if this is not your first time. My name is Jay, and this is the page of being Jay, the page where we express ourselves, dialogue, share information, um, share our opinions to help each and every one of us to learn or know how to navigate this crazy puzzle called Earth or world. Um, we've been speaking about a lot, we've been sharing quite a lot since we've been trying to be a bit more consistent, being accountable for it. In the last video, we shared quite a lot. So yeah, welcome to this page. If this is your first time, pardon. This is a page of being we, so we be we. You know, already know. But yeah, on the previous video, or the video before the previous video, because the previous video got a bit quite deep real quick and got a bit carried away, and we got a bit ahead of ourselves, go a bit more too deep, so we're gonna try and go back to the video before that and try and follow that path follow that track, and what we'll do. I mean, I know this is borderline kind of somehow kind of get boring, or will get boring, because it's a build up. So, and like I said, it's a journey. So we're gonna have to ride with us. If you're riding with us, you're riding with us. If you're not, you're not. I'm sorry, but it's a journey. I can't just say, oh, boom. Unfortunately, there's no magic one to, do abracadabra or abracazam or alakazam, whatever it is, for everybody to get it straight away. So it's gonna have to be, unfortunately, follow the pattern. As much as I'm trying to even, be eager and trying to fit everything into one, unfortunately it's not going to be that way. So do pardon the slow pace, but we're going to get there. It's a destination that we're going to, but to get to the destination is a bit of a journey. However long your journey has been on Earth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 20, 40, 50, 60 years of your life, yeah. So if you've led 40 years, we've got to do 40 years of cluttering or decluttering, or all of that stuff. So the older you are, the more work you got to do, I guess, and the more of understanding you got to get, because there's a whole lot of things you've been through. But the quicker you start to do the work, the better for you, more or less. But anyway, so without further ado, or without taking much of your time, like I always do, you already know, we blah 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 blah. Talk too much. That's what it is. I guess that's what it is. Somebody said that's what we're good at. We talk too much, and I guess we just like to express. Anyway, so following the pattern from the last video, or the last video before the last video, where we're talking about the categories of how the world has divided us to be, in regards of the social classes, let's put it that way, because that's where we're gonna go from, in terms of when we're born, where we find ourselves in the space of the social classes. Obviously it plays a very, very big and major factor on our mental, the way we think and the way we process things, how we see ourselves or who we see ourselves to be, comes from that foundation, right? So the household we're born into, and that's where we begin picking up our initial identities, and obviously touching on the point of the last video where I mentioned that we gotta try and get to a place where we kind of get that picture of when we first had our first memory, like when we can recall our first memory, because once we can recall our first memory, then the tracing can be done a bit more clearer, you know. Obviously then it comes to the place where, okay, let's say at the age of 3 you start realizing stuff, or you start knowing stuff, or at the age of 4 or 5, or even maybe younger than that, 2 maybe, I don't know, if you were like a superhuman being, maybe 2 you start gaining conscience and you know what's happening. But yeah, I think the average age is around 3. So 3, 4, 5, 6. That's it for the late bloomers. Some people start picking up stuff, quicker. Some people start picking it slower. But regardless of which one you're, whatever it is, the main point is that we get to the place of figuring out or realizing what the first memory was, and then from there you can start getting a picture of how you start getting your mindsets, or how you start building up mindsets, or how your brain start developing. Let's put it that way. So obviously, let's say we're gonna stick to the household of 2, right? Household of 2 parents, because that's what we normally know. All right. So the household of 2 parents, you have to understand the parents come from 2 backgrounds. So the mom comes from this background, the dad comes from this background. Sometimes they're from the same countries, sometimes they're not. Again, that also contributes to the way of thinking and the way of seeing things and way of perspective, way of life, whatever the case may be, what's going on here? I don't know, music won't. You still don't know that we need background music, man. We need music, man. Music is life. Anyhow, so anyways, told you it gets carried away sometimes. We get carried away sometimes with the background music because it's tantalizing. But yeah, so when you come from a two parent household, your mindset will be different, because mom will be seeing things differently, dad will be seeing things differently. However they, they're whatever they need to get to the place of union where they start bearing children. That's up to them, and I guess that sometimes you're gonna have to find that out as well, because sometimes obviously things happen along the way that you have to understand the perspective from mom and the perspective from dad. To understand identity is a lot of things, because it entails a lot of things. So right now, obviously we're still on the topic of the physical history, but we're on the path of physical history for us, or identifying us as an individual. So I mean, whoever you are that you're watching, you could be 10 years old, you could be 5 years old, you could be 15, you could be 20, whatever your age is. We're going from that perspective, so you can try and relate. So whether you're still living with your parents or you're not living with your parents, you can try and relate. When you were living with your parents, what are the things you picked up in that household from mom and from dad? How was the relationship between you and your mom and your dad? Or even you, your mom, your dad, and your siblings, because sometimes, okay, let's say it's a one child, or let's make it an even family, so 2 parents and 2 children, all right? So if you find yourself in a household like this, now you got 3 people you're dealing with, and that's the 3 people that you would mimic or imitate the most, or you end up picking up traits from the most, right? So you have to understand things from that part. And those people might be interested in a whole lot of different things. Dad might be into football, mom might be into cooking, and your brother or your sister, whichever the other child is, might be interested in games, video games, and you're just interested in art. Again, now, different mindsets. Alright, that might try to push you into football. You're not into football, you're more or less the artist. You want to be artistic, whether drawing, whether music, whichever way you're creative. or mom wants you to, be somebody that joins in the kitchen and become a chef or become a doctor or become a nurse or become whatever. So already they have a vision for your life. They have a picture for your life because you are their child, because they gave birth to you, so you are their child. So they've got, or they feel like they have the responsibility of making you into something that they I guess feel like they're responsible for, and that's where sometimes most parents go wrong. But I mean, we're going to talk about parenting another time. But we're talking about getting the beginning stages right, going back to the beginning stages and understanding our first initial identities when we start picking up identities, right? Anyhow, so sometimes in those families, again, our backgrounds or our physical histories always contain it comes in layers upon layers or upon layers. All right, so we were talking before about the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and the physical. There's also the part of the traditional, the religious. So it's the traditional, the religious, the cultural, and then the society side of stuff. I understand. So now, because we're talking about the homes we're coming from, the homes we're coming from, and the backgrounds we're coming from, we're just focusing on the nuclear family, right? Which somehow is connected to the extended family. If we add the grandma and the granddad and the uncles and the aunties, right? So now we have the nuclear family and we have the extended family. Now, our nuclear families, obviously connected to our extended families, come from different. So now we've got this triangle, right? The triangle. Mom comes from this side, dad comes from this side. Now mom and dad are united, and now we have our own family. So we're connected to this triangle, the family. And influences come from all parts of that, right? Initial influences, let's put it that way. Initial influences before we start walking, and before we start getting into going to school and picking up our influences from other people that we meet, or before we start going into churches, or before we start going into wherever places of worship, if we get groomed in that way, because like I was about to say again, like I was saying, there's the traditional side, there's the religious side, there's the cultural side, and there's the society side of stuff, right? So as a person now, obviously born 1, 2, 3, now you're growing, all right, 4, 5, 6, now you're picking up what's going on around you, right? You're following your mom and dad, you're following your siblings, you're following uncles, you're following aunties, you're going to different places, you're seeing different things, you're picking up different images. A very important thing as well, because when I was thinking of sharing this thing, like about picking up your first memory, what I kind of saw in my mind was, like, imagine our brains are the most powerful thing, bro. Like, this is why nobody can ever look down on themselves and say, I'm nobody, I don't know anything, blah blah blah. Like, I guess the world is beating us up that way to feel that way, but when we understand what we're trying to work to understand, or with the power we're taking to understand stuff, you understand how powerful it is. Because look at these two things here. These are the two brains. Like, imagine how long we live, right? Let's say we live 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 1 plus, whatever, right? These two things walk with us all those years, and they literally document. It's like we got like this crazy computer machine, whatever that's inside of us, right? and the memory is so amazing, or depending on how you take care of it. Sometimes the memory is so amazing, sometimes it gets a bit cloudy and all of that stuff. But let's just say we're taking a healthy brain, all right? There's pictures upon pictures upon pictures. Like, let's say it's 365 days in a year. This thing is recording 365 days of the year. When we are awake, and even when we're asleep. When we're asleep, we go into a different dimension and we start having dreams, and also your brain is recording daytime and nighttime. It's literally constantly working. You understand? That's how mad it is. So the more we can remember, which is why a whole lot of things are happening to weaken our brain, because our brains are so powerful that if we're able to access it in the ways that we're supposed to access it, that we're not being made to access it. Yeah, anyways. So yeah, we find ourselves in the triangle, all right? All right, let me finish that. So once we start getting or understanding the pictures, right? Every single day, the more of those pictures you can remember, and the more you can remember in the moment of those pictures what you were thinking about, how you were thinking, and in that thought process, how you were feeling, what made you feel the way you feel, what about the situation, what about the circumstance, what about the atmosphere, what about the place of being, wherever that case may be, wherever that space was while we are in that space. Like, let's say right now we are here, right? How are we feeling? Whichever place you are right now, wherever you're in your room, wherever you're on the bus, wherever you are that you're listening to this, in this particular moment as you're listening, or even before you start listening, what was going on in your brain, and how is it making you feel? Now picture that moment, and then picture that moment for all the other times, or however you've ever felt. Ask yourself, why do you feel that way? Understand? So however we feel, or however we're feeling, those things have a trace. I can keep saying, going back, which is what we're trying to do. It has a trace from the first memory. When we start memorizing stuff, when we start, seeing stuff for what they are, when we start, what's it called? When we start getting our first memories, our first memories. That's I guess that's the focal point of this video. When we start seeing our realizing our first memories. That's a very important thing, bro. Like, when I first understood that role, that just set me on a crazy path to a different way of understanding things. Because it's like, okay, so it's day by day, moment by moment, hour by hour, second by second. Like, that's how life is, right? It's second by second, millisecond by millisecond, or millisecond by millisecond, or second by second, or minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, year by year, or month by month. But all of that stuff, like, that's how life is. So it's like, it's moments. It's all literally moments. At least we're going through this thing of time, right? Why it is the way it is, we don't know. So I guess that's why scientists have, become so many that everybody's trying to look at different parts of it to try and get an understanding of the equation. Which, I mean, the answer's already there. Like I said before, I'm just doing these things in the way that I'm doing it, just so we can get a clear understanding. The answers are there. Don't ever get me wrong. The answers are there. But I'm just trying to get us, like I said, to dialogue. The answers are there. I keep saying, just go straight to this place. I can tell you, go straight to this place and look at it. If you want to look at it and you go understand it, and read it to understand it and apply it, the answers are there. However, I'm just trying to get us to understand the levels of what has been going on that's making our brains go so, round and round in circles, and we're spinning and spinning, because we're fighting ourselves. You know, there's a battle going on within us, and there's a battle going on in our mind, and it's like, should I do what my mom is telling me? Should I do what my dad is telling me? Should I do what society is telling me? Should I do? It's like it's a whole lot of voices in the head, and the head is so heavy. So I'm trying to help us understand why the head is so heavy and what you gotta pay more attention to, the voices or yourself, or the path that has been paved for us to follow. There's a path that has been paved for us to follow to gain the things that we want to gain, whether materialistically or whether mentally or emotionally, wherever the case may be, whether spiritually, wherever it is. It is done, like it's been written. It is finished. All of it is finished. However, there's been a whole lot of enchantment that has been enchanting that has been going on. Some spells that has been casted, and you know, it's left everybody in a very weird, bizarre illusion mode that we don't all understand, because we've all been put in different states of mind that our brains are literally just rebelling against each other, because you know, you're saying something and I see it in a different way, so we don't agree, and we bump heads and we just go nah, blah blah blah, and we keep disagreeing, and it's been happening upon years upon years upon years. This is what, because of the divisions. So much to say, man. But yeah, so we have to literally start looking that deep. If we're looking for understanding of our identities, we need to look that deep. You understand? It goes that deep. We need to go, and this is what I'm saying to you. This is just the nuclear side. I used to understand the nuclear side. Now you have to break it down again and understand the extended side. And then once you break it down to the extended side, it's something that I now call the extra extended family. You understand? The extra extended family is the unit of humanity. All human beings, we are connected in every single way. Like, anyway, now it gets deep again. The blood we share, the organs we share, it's crazy. It doesn't matter what color you are. Sometimes you might be black, and the organ that you need to be, you know, you might need a kidney, or you might need something, and a person that you might what's the word? You might be compatible with. It might not even be black, it might not even be white, it might not even be Chinese. There might be something totally different. Let's say a Chinese person might need a black person's kidney, or you know, that's the compatibility, or a white person might need a black person's kidney, that's the compatibility. So how then do we let the divisions mess up what has been written, like what has been made? Like there is that whole thing, like, you know, what goes around comes around, the full circle, all that stuff. It's a lot. So that's where we gotta start from. So obviously in those households, however the household is, like I was saying in the previous video, whether it is a loving home or a toxic home, that's where now it becomes what's the word? It becomes interesting, because that's when we begin to pick our identities, right? So now obviously we know that from the nuclear family, where there's a two-head family, there's a two-parent home, that might be the dynamics, right? So obviously now you as a person, you're growing, and you now have your own ways of seeing things, because you've been interacting with different people from when you were a baby to now, when you gain your first memory, and now understanding how things work, and you're memorizing things, and you're seeing things, and you're understanding things. Or you maybe might have never been understanding things, and it's becoming a burden in the sense that you're not understanding things in its own way. So there's all these angles: mom, dad, sibling, and then you in the family. Everybody have different brains, of course, so everybody has things different, everybody sees things different, everybody goes about things very different, and all of that stuff, right? So we're picking up things because everybody have the expectations of who they want you to be, and what they want you to be, and where they want you to go, and what you're trying, what they want you to, you know, they want all of that stuff, all those expectations that we found ourselves setting for ourselves because of how the world has become due to this thing of capitalism and materialistic, lifestyles that we live. Because sometimes people might not even be about, collecting cars or being about food. Everybody's different. Everybody's a being in their own way. So how they want to be, you can just encourage. You can't, enforce. Because it becomes a bit tricky that way. So yeah, for us to understand the way we think, and for us to understand how our brains have been wired, or how our brains are working, or how our brains have been working from the household perspective. These are sometimes what we have to look at. What are the contributing factors that have shaped us as to how we see things when it comes to how we relate to people and how we relate to things in general. How we see things, how our mindsets have been tuned, whether it's been our mom, whether we're walking around with our mom's version of how the world is, or how our dad's version of the world is, or how both our parents' version of the world is, because maybe they understand the world the same, and we're now being made to understand the world the way they understand it, right? Obviously now you're growing from that household, and then there's uncles and aunties, and you're now having friends, and you're now going into the world, and also in those territories you're picking up influences. So the deciphering goes from the household, and then the environment, or the community, or society. And now whether you're from a household of religious background or not, that also plays a factor. Whether you're more traditionalist, or whether you're into Islam, or you're into Judaism, or you're into Christianity, or you're into any of these other religions that are out here, what those beliefs also teach you, what those things also teach you. And then you go to school, and then school is also teaching you stuff, and you also have to learn all these subjects in school. You have to try and understand what impact all these things have contributed to you, and then come to a place of thinking, okay, there's all these informations. And mind these informations that have been put inside of me, these expectations that have been put on top of me. Obviously mom wants me to be a doctor or whatever, and dad wants me to be a business person or whatever. Do I want that for myself? Because that's where the stress is most of the time, because everybody's expectations, wherever everybody's going through, and it's a lot. Like what goes on in households, again, whether a loving household or a toxic household, we're gonna come to that as well. But like I said, we're building, and we have gone way past the 20 minutes, right? And we're still going. But yeah, so just so we can get a clear understanding of how to start and where to begin, right? To declutter our minds, right? That's what this video is aimed for. Because once we can understand our families and our backgrounds and where we're coming from, it would help us to understand where we're going and where to go, and also understand what is happening around us, what has happened around us. And again, that's just the history of the you, I guess, we, or the I, right? That's the history of you. Now, to understand the rest, or because it comes to a point where the history of you is not enough. Okay, my family, blah blah blah. Okay, then it gets into society, then it gets bigger. Anyhow, we'll end it here. This is being Jay. Obviously we're not done, so we're gonna carry on into the next video. I'm just gonna end it here because the time is half in the hour. So until we meet again, take it easy on yourself and just try and understand the levels. All right, so this is being Jay. See you in the next video. Brow.